Hey, what up, fish friends? Are auto-dosing pumps a worthwhile investment for the planted tank? In today's video, I'm going to cover the Jebao, which is equivalent to the Jecod auto-dosing fertilizer system. I'll make sure to cover how to set it up, routine maintenance that you should do every few years, and then give you a review what I thought about this system and how it might stack up to some of the more expensive ones. Although, full disclosure, I don't bother spending my money on any of those expensive systems. So the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure that you got some sort of shelf built. That's so that you can rest your pump on top and then sit your fertilizers underneath. You'll have two tubes or two air lines, one that goes into the fertilizer system and then the other that runs up and sits in your tank. I like to have a little U-bend in there so that it can sit on top of the tank properly. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is set the time. You can do the date if you want, but it doesn't really matter, to be honest. So you're just going to hit that return button and then go to set date and time. Pretty straightforward, 2024, 125. I think that's right, close enough. And then I'm going to set the time. It's 10:45. I have not kept up with time changes. I think that's why it's off. Let me double check. Oh, it's 10:37. So, just scroll over, hit the up and down arrows. It's pretty intuitive. If you've ever used digital technology, you'll get this part. All right, so the date and time are set. And now what we're going to need to do is calibrate the pump. All right, so calibrating is a super important part of the process, and all that means is we're making sure that the pump is actually pumping the amount that it says it's pumping. So in order to calibrate, the first thing you need to do is get 100 milliliters of water. It's kind of shaky right now, so you can't see, but it does need to be exact. And then, and then you take your system and you go up where it says correct pumps. You can also go down and it will say correct pumps. You hit the pump that you're trying to correct. So right here it says 100 milliliters equals 233. 233, I think, is the amount of seconds it takes to pump 100 milliliters. And the way that the system makes sure it's correct is it just uses time in relation to milliliters. So however long it's pumping at full blast, there's only one speed. So at whatever blast that it takes to get 100 milliliters. So right now, I'm going to put my inline, the one on the left right here, and then I'm going to take the out, and I'm going to stick it in another container. Oops, I'm going to stick it in another container down there. It doesn't really matter where that goes, just don't want it going onto the floor. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up to correct pumps. You can also hit down to get there. Hit 1 for pump number 1, and then hit up again, and it's going to start pulling that water. We're going to hit up one more time once the water is fully through the system. As you can see here, it's counting. Like I said, it's not really seconds, but whatever unit of measurement for time is how it relates to the milliliters. So boop, 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 boop. We're just going to let that go. Something to be aware of is when you get to the bottom of the fertilizer line, you're going to want to tilt it like that. So that the water is pooled up, in one area. Oh, I missed a little bit. That little bit will be okay for the calibration. But yeah, we just want it to be right at the bottom like that. All right, now that we're pretty much at the done with this, there we go, right at the end. We'll hit that up button. And pump number 1 has been successfully calibrated. All right, now to get the fertilizer hooked into the line, I got my fertilizer here, Nylock Yeast Thrive, and I've drilled a hole in the top. I did that a while ago. I suppose I don't need to redo the process for you. You understand how that works. Just drill a hole that's maybe slightly narrower than airline. That way you can stick your airline in there and make sure that you have kind of a angle there because that'll help you slide it into the hole. And you push it all the way down to the bottom. If your airline doesn't reach the bottom, then you're only going to be able to pump out as low as your airline goes. So, you want to use your full fertilizer. It'd be kind of a hassle if you only pump till there. And then now that we've got that in place, we're going to flush all of that water out that we used to calibrate the system. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to go to manual mode to the left and then just hit 1, and that's going to pump it. So I'm going to put this down so I can show you. We're going to pump it until fertilizer comes through the tubing. Oh, and there we go. You can see it's that yellow stuff. When it's your first time setting up the pump, you'll see lots of air bubbles in the line. And the way you can do that or get rid of that is just kind of flick this and flick here as you're pumping it. It's pretty normal that you get a little bit of air backlogged here, but as long as the rest of your line is clear, that's fine. All right, and now that I got fertilizer all the way through to the end of the system, I'm going to go ahead and clip this onto the tank. All right, so all I got to do is just kind of bring it around through the back. It's kind of easier with 2 people, but not that big a deal. And then just bring this around the top and set that in. And there we have it, my 75-gallon, my pride and joy that's been a little deprived of nutrients lately. Glad that I hooked that fertilizer up, shouldn't be an issue anymore. And the line just goes back here from under the tank all the way up top and in there. I'm just using a little U-bend here. There's tons of ways you could do it. If you just wanted, you could put the airline here and then put some tape over it. There's more expensive alternatives to this. People are making similar systems but using 3D printers. What you're going to want to do now is program the pump. So hit return and go down to set program, select pump number 1. And so part 1 is time per day. That's how many times do we want the pump to go off a day. I just want it to go off once, so 1 is good. And then interval, that's how many days in between dosing. So since I want it to go every day, it's 0. If there was every other day, that would be 1 day in between pumps. So we would go 1 for that. But again, if you want it to go every day, you keep it at 0 because that's 0 days in between fertilizing. Hit enter, and then dosing volume, 10 milliliters. That's when I was using a slightly leaner fertilizer, APT3, and I'm going to be going back to Nylog G's Thrive. So I'm going to start it a lot lower. Oh, that won't work. I got to go down to the 10, go 0 there. I'm going to be going off of 6 milliliters a day, and then I'll make adjustments on that. So dosing time, 2 o'clock. I like mine to go off right as my lights turn on. So my lights turn on at 2, so does the fertilizing pump. And that's it. That's all you need to do to set the program. And then one last thing to be aware of is that you want to make sure that the tip of that airline tube is not under the water level. You want it to be sitting substantially above. And reason for that is when the tube goes into the water, water mixes with the airline and it pulls the juice or the fertilizer out of your tubing, and it can even drain into your bottle. The consequences of that are that right off the bat, your tank is getting dosed with an extremely high level of fertilizer, which can be bad for your fish, maybe even your plants too. The other way to prevent that, besides putting your airline above your water level, is to put a check valve in there. I would recommend that you go about using both methods in order to prevent any mistakes from happening. All right, so what's the word? Is this really a worthwhile investment for your planted tank? I would say that there's 2 different scenarios for that. First of all, if you have a low-tech planted tank, then no, it's not really a worthwhile investment. I don't think that missing a day or even a week of fertilizing in at least my low-tech tanks is a big deal. I'm using low levels of lighting, and the plants have nutrition in the substrate anyways. But when it comes to my high-tech planted tank like this, it really does make a big difference. So I know that I am very forgetful and I'm not going to remember to fertilize every day. And then I'm trying to play catch up, adding a little extra juice on the day after a few days I've forgotten. And that's really not a good thing. It's like taking extra medicine or something. It just shouldn't even do that. Basically what happens when you dump in a ton of fertilizer is that the nitrates, phosphates, and every other chemical element in there, those levels are going to be elevated in your tank, which allows an opportunity for algae to take over. The advantage to doing a little bit of fertilizer every day through using the dosing pump is that there's leaner levels of nutrients in the water, which gives plants the upper edge. So all in all, this fertilizing pump is great because it keeps things consistent and I don't have to worry about it. When I go on vacation, I know that my pumps are still going there every day at the same time. Also, when I'm at work in the middle of the day, I know that my tank is getting fertilized. And when I come home and I'm really tired and forget, it's not a big deal. So what about the really crazy expensive ones? Does it make a difference? Is it worth investing in an auto dosing pump that you can connect with your phone? Well, if you're looking to add another app to your phone, then it might be worth it. For me, I don't think it's worth the extra money. These pumps run from like 50 to 80 bucks. And then once you start getting into the fancier ones, there's some options that like hook into auto water change features. And then you're looking at hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. And those extra features just aren't worthwhile for me. Maybe consider it for yourself if you're trying to get your tank automated where you don't have to do anything, then it might be worth it for you. As far as maintenance on these autodosing pumps, it's super simple. There's really two steps. The first one is to recalibrate it. We already went over the calibration process. You're just going to do that again. And the second step is to run hot water through the system. We're just flushing out any solid minerals, stuff in the fertilizers that have hardened over time, crusted up the airline and the pump. Helps just to keep things clean and running smooth. So all I'm doing here is I got some really hot tap water. I'm going to put that down in one line. And then I got another container. I'll just stick the out in there. And then I'll run the pump. In order to run the pump, all you need to do is hit that left button and then hit enter. And it will just manually pump. So I haven't even pumped that much hot water through my system, maybe about 25, 30 milliliters for each line, and that should be enough to clear it out. All right, that's all I got for auto dosing pumps. Thanks so much for watching. I'll leave a link in the description for this one if you're curious in checking out the Jebao or Jecod model. Thanks a lot for watching. Please hit that like and subscribe button if you learned anything today. Until next time, see ya!